The Pandemic World Online is a multiplayer online game where numerous players participate in massive battles and engage in combat with each other. The main character in this game is Kisaragi Tuya. Leading his group, he battles against colossal monsters and urges his team not to hold back. Despite this, Kisaragi Tuya charges forward with full force, recognized as the most powerful berserker in the game's history. He instructs his team to coordinate their attacks and utilize the fire arrow technique. Tuya reveals that he is a member of the Generita Kingdom in the game, currently embroiled in a conflict with the Luneta Kingdom. The Sifancy Kingdom sends mercenaries to both sides, supporting them in their ongoing battle. In this perpetual conflict within the game, the three kingdoms clash endlessly, each striving to dominate the land and assert their authority in the relentless power struggle. However, Tuya does not endorse this relentless cycle of warfare. The residents of the virtual world are amazed at his ability to survive and remain unharmed in battles, armed only with a sword. Achieving a level beyond 500 is extremely rare, accomplished by only 0.1% of players. Yet Kisaragi Tuya effortlessly reaches level 700, making significant progress in the game. They are all very surprised when he takes the lead, signaling it's time to start the attack. After emerging victorious in battle, he becomes known as the sword that brings destruction. The people in the kingdom cheer him on and praise his contribution to the win. They recognize the strength of Luneta's army, but attribute their victory to Tuya's exceptional abilities, suggesting they celebrate with beer. Despite feeling embarrassed, Tuya insists that the war was not won solely because of him, giving credit to the collective efforts of the citizens and the army. People laugh, noting his change in personality, especially during battles. Tuya confidently crosses his arms, stating that his hard work and countless sleepless nights have earned him the recognition he deserves. His team recommends going hunting to find more treasures, mentioning the Loruka Cave as a promising location. However, he declines, preferring to first sort out the treasures from the day's battle. Despite receiving a magic robe as a reward, which he doesn't value as he's already at the highest rank, he explains he needs to briefly log out to take care of real-life matters. Surprising his teammates, he logs into the game with a new account, saying it was created solely to store the vast amount of treasures acquired with his main account. Tuya expresses his disappointment at the amount of effort he invested in developing the MC of his new account. He advises his teammates to go hunting but requests them to wait until he logs in with his main account since the new one is only at level 1 and cannot participate in combat. He is taken aback when the ground suddenly shifts and gives way beneath him, causing him to tumble. Upon regaining consciousness, he finds himself staring at an elderly man and a young girl dressed as a princess, who declares the mission a success. Confused, Tuya realizes he is not in front of a computer screen and examines his surroundings before asking where he is. The princess, brimming with happiness, embraces him and calls him Hiro-sama. She then respectfully introduces herself as the first princess of the Generita Kingdom, apologizing for her exuberance and reassuring him not to be concerned. The princess implores Tuya to assist them in their conflict against the Luneta Kingdom, emphasizing the tragic loss of lives, territory, and the suffering of defenseless children and women. She details how they employ their national treasure, the Jewels of Invocation, to summon heroes like him in order to save lives and safeguard their realm. Confused, Tuya gets up and wonders if the princess is talking about him. He then expresses his doubts, mentioning that he is just a 35-year-old office worker with no special abilities. Wondering how he can be of any help, she is surprised to learn Tuya's age, commenting that he looks much younger. He frustratedly points to his hair, questioning how he could appear young. To his amazement, he realizes that he has been transformed into a young, athletic man. The guard gets angry and approaches Tuya, asking why he is being disrespectful in front of the princess. However, she steps in, telling the guard to back off and explaining that Tuya's confusion is normal. The people suggest checking Tuya's status to confirm that he is a hero and clear up any misunderstandings. He follows their advice and checks his status, but finds no mention of him being a hero. The princess, confused, asks about his title. Turning around, he reveals that his title is the one who was summoned. The crowd gathers around him, claiming that this title represents great power and is given to heroes, making him someone who exceeds level 100. However, the princess becomes concerned when he discloses that he is only at level 1. Those around him are enraged, questioning how someone so inexperienced could be in this situation. Tuya then turns to the princess, suggesting that they have made an error and should return him so he can resume his own life. The guard, enraged, accuses Tuya of selfishness in a time of crisis and wants to physically harm him. Nevertheless, the princess intervenes, explaining the existence of the jewel of counter-invocation which can send him back. She proposes to redo the invocation before sending him back. The princess mentions that this ritual can only be performed once every few years during a full moon, and she can only do it once with her remaining power. She asks Tuya if he agrees with this course of action. He responds that he is fine with it, even if he could go back the next day. The princess expresses satisfaction and instructs her guard to prepare the jewel for invocation. During the invocation, a man suddenly falls from above. The princess rushes to him, grasping his collar and inquiring about his level. Perplexed, the man asserts himself as the hero. The crowd cheers with joy upon realizing that the summoning was a success. The princess embraces him warmly, revealing that she has long awaited his arrival to save her kingdom. Tuya is taken aback by the spectacle, having been engrossed in a friendly game with his companions moments before. The people encourage the princess to depart as the king eagerly awaits the hero's arrival. Meanwhile, the guard scurries to prepare everything for the hero, while Tuya queries about his own circumstances, feeling disheartened by his considerably higher statistics in comparison to his level. A maid approaches him and advises him to relax in the guest room until the preparations for the counter-summoning are complete. Tuya consents and enters the grand castle, admiring its grandeur and allure. However, to his dismay, the maid ushers him into a shabby cage, prompting him to object that it hardly resembles a guest room. After mentioning that she has left some food inside, the maid departs. Famished, Tuya hurries to retrieve the food, only to be dismayed by its scant portion. Glancing around, he realizes that it closely resembles the character he had created in the game. He consumes the meal and attempts to rest, but his hunger prevents him from falling asleep. He ponders on checking his storage but hesitates, thinking it may not work. Surprisingly, the magic functions and he discovers all the items he had stored are accessible. In the midst of this, the princess's chief assistant enters the room and informs Tuya that it is time for the counter-invocation. He mentions that the princess is busy, so he will conduct the invocation in her place. Reassuring Tuya not to worry, he introduces himself as the royal mage and instructs Tuya to position himself in the center. Tuya feels perplexed, contemplating his return to his own world and the tasks that await him the next day, which makes him somewhat melancholy. As the mage initiates the process, Tuya reaches a certain point assuming he will perceive it as a dream, only to be stunned when he realizes he is still in the same location, comprehending that he cannot return.